Greetings, Ranger fans. Jake here for another Deeper Run Through Live. We are looking at our episodes of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury, one episode at a time, 2 episodes per night each week, through our unscripted analyses. And welcome to the 11-year anniversary of Database Rangers Power Reviews. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Obviously, the big thing that I've been hyping up for the last week and a half has been the premiere of the first part of the grand finale to Database Rangers Power Reviews, starting with episode 98. Now, I know I've been doing a countdown every night, so I do wish to quickly address that elephant in the room. Yes, the intent is for it to be out tonight, or at least that was the intent. I am basically done. However, 98 is a very, very large episode. Not in terms of length, but in terms of complexity. It is probably the third longest Power Reviews episode so far, but definitely one of the most complex. And for that reason, it's going to take a while to export. So because of that level of complexity, the premiere of 98, I'm going to have be in the afternoon tomorrow. So I'll be posting that on my social media later tonight. We'll do a 2 p.m. premiere of Database Rangers Power Reviews, episode 98, the first part of the 3-part finale. I would have loved to have been able to premiere it right after the live stream tonight, but it has just been too big of an undertaking. I know that I've had to push this back over and over and over and over and over again, but this won't even be a pushback of 24 hours. I just need overnight to export it, and make sure that, and then upload it in the morning. So it's coming. I'll be putting up that image on social media with the date and time for everybody, but it will be live tomorrow. One way or another, it's going to be live tomorrow. I've put in so many late nights, but it's happening. I've got everything I need. I'm just giving it one more run through right now for polish, making sure that all the effects aren't having any errors, cleaning up the sound, etc. So I should be good to export that not long after the stream tonight. So that'll be good for the afternoon tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So it's yeah, it's been a week. I am extremely tired. I've been pushing past all my bedtimes to make this happen. I did manage to post a countdown image every night for the last week and a half, which also is one of the reasons that it hurts that I'm not hitting it exactly. I'm close. I got close. But I will do a final countdown image after the stream tonight, with the exact time for the premiere, so that you guys can all join us. Now, I will say, with regards to Axel T's comment, one, we are avoiding spoilers at the moment for any episodes past episode 4. I've seen them all. We just won't be doing discussion on that. Now, with regards to how that ties into the comics, all we can say is that it is implied that comic storyline is the origin in the television series. We don't have confirmation that every detail of that storyline is confirmed, only that the result of that storyline is now canon to the TV show. So, or in continuity with the television series. So, we don't know for certain if the same events transpired, since we have seen discrepancies between the comics and the television series before. Um, but yeah, 11 years of doing this, it is crazy to realize that's been that long. And of course, the big the big video is running late, because of course it is. That's been the story of my life with this channel for so long. Um, but anyway, we're here to talk about Power Rangers Cosmic Fury, specifically episodes 3 and 4 of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury, Off Grid and Teamwork. So, as we dive into that, let us not forget our 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, these are phrases we should all be able to agree are equally non-controversial. Number 1, say it with me, chat, Black Lives Matter. Number 2, say it with me, chat, fascism is bad. And number 3, say it with me, chat, superheroes are fun. So, let us jump in with our epic superhero journey with the Power Rangers Cosmic Fury Episode 3, Off Grid. I always love to read off the Netflix description and summary for these. Oh, that's a good question. Do I think Human Zed is still alive? I see no reason why he would not be. I don't know. We never got enough backstory on him, or enough story elements for him in the series. But I'd like to think that he's living his best life. Hard to tell. So, episode 3, Off Grid. Stranded on a faraway planet with no powers, Team Cosmic Fury scrambles to figure out a way home whilst Earth suffers an invasion from enemy forces. And I am somewhat amused that this is the second episode that uses the term Team Cosmic Fury in the description, despite, for the most part, them not having the Cosmic Fury powers yet in this episode, or even using their new Cosmic Fury Zords in this episode. This is a largely powerless episode, which is relatively rare. We do get, obviously, our new morph at the very end of the episode, finally getting to see that, scene that got hinted at in the trailers. But for the most part, this is the Rangers stranded on the planet Eridus and trying to figure out their next move. Off Grid being, kind of a reference to being off the beaten path, outside of any signals that people can usually communicate with you, outside of where your enemies could potentially track you, and in this case, off the morphing grid because they no longer have their powers. And I will say, this episode probably had the most breathing room so far. After the boom, 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 boom of the first 2 episodes, this is one where we kind of get to settle in a little bit more, and the Rangers have a little bit of time to react and process all the events that have just transpired. And I feel like this is the one that, so far, really gives me the biggest Power Rangers in Space vibes. Everything surrounding the planet Eridus and the Scuttle Worm, it really brings to mind Survival of Silver. Where there is the mysterious egg that hatches a monster, and that causes danger for the base. It's very similar to Survival of Silver in those general feelings, and having that outside context alien threat that's not directly tied to the main villains. That is something that I really enjoyed about this. It did feel like this was, sort of a space exploration adventure, the likes of which we haven't really seen in Power Rangers for a long time. we'll see how much more of that we get to see throughout the rest of the series as we discuss those episodes. But this one, I did enjoy the aspects of, you know, dealing with the alien landscape, the alien flora and fauna, um, Ion wanting to figure out how to cook things, and that tying into their conflict with the Scuttleworm monster. All of these things I felt worked rather well, um, along with Amelia settling more into being the heart of the team, the rock of the team, providing that emotional support. Um, I was saying previously with episodes 1 and 2, we've really been seeing Amelia evolve into more of a leadership position here. So that when we see the big reveal at the end of the episode, they have these new powers, and with these new powers, she is now a Red Ranger instead of Pink Ranger. Um, it does actually feel like a natural evolution. You know, she has been, you know, gaining more and more confidence and competency across the course of the series, I feel. Um, she's the one who really is keeping a even keel through this. Izzy is freaking out about Fern being on Alien Planet. Javi is freaking out over his arm. Ion is freaking out over the loss of Zato. And Amelia is upset over the loss of Ollie, with Ollie being turned evil. But she's the one who seems to be most in her wheelhouse here. The one who has the best emotional handle on the situation. And I think a big part of that is because of her experiences in Dino Fury, with her parents having been turned evil. You know, Void Knight and Void Queen were villains for the whole stretch of time that she knew them, up until the very end of the series, with the exception of Tarek's brief deflection. So she has this confidence that comes from a real place of experience, that she has faith that in time she's going to get her boyfriend back. They will eventually find a way to turn him back from being evil. They did so for Tarek. They did so for Santora. They're going to do so for Ali. Whereas the others are all very much in uncharted waters, emotionally speaking. Ion has gone from grieving over the loss of Zato initially, to now that uncertainty of where Zato is, what is his status. He was able to deal with the knowledge that Zato was gone, that Zato had sacrificed himself, but this is not him gone, just him missing. And that's just bringing up those old wounds of him having been gone for so long. Not even particularly old wounds. It's only been 6 months. And that's really hitting him, that uncertainty, that loss of direction. And it really also emphasizes how much Zato has been a stabilizing force for Ion as a Ranger. Welcome, Jeremy. And Zed living life with Rita and Trey. Yay! I wonder if they just hung out in Triforia after Zed was purified. So, and Izzy is trying to figure out, Izzy is younger than the rest of them. She's trying to navigate how best to balance her Ranger life with her girlfriend now being a part of it, in terms of actually being on an adventure with them for the first time, and in that source of danger, because that never happened really with Fern before. She was, you know, a general civilian that she could protect with as a Ranger with her Ranger powers. But she was not part of the loop until the very end of the series, you know, the last few episodes, during which, as soon as she found out, she went off to college, and she was off in another town once she knew that Izzy was a Ranger. And it wasn't until here that she's actually present for Ranger activities, knowing about the Ranger activities, and being intimately connected with all that. So Izzy is another person who's in uncharted waters in this regard. And then we have Javi, who's dealing with the loss of his arm, the loss of a limb. Um, and I think that's been a very interesting little arc for him so far. Um, Learning to adapt to this new version of his body. Um, he is, while he is, empowered to a degree that he now has this super strong robot arm. It is at this time also a disability. He doesn't have his previous levels of dexterity, and that's heartbreaking for him as somebody who had prided himself so much on his ability to perform with so many different musical instruments. Um, and it's an interesting journey watching him learn to navigate this new sense of his own body. Um, Even while all the other Rangers are being very supportive. Um, Now that does mean that there were certain moments in this episode where I felt like the Rangers weren't necessarily handling things as intelligently as they could be. Specifically, when they were setting up the communications array or communications antenna, and they got attacked by the scuttle worm. The fact that Izzy and Javi were the ones working the on the satellite, while Amelia and Ion were the ones fighting the scuttle worm. Like, I was watching them, like, why are you sending the guy who has no manual dexterity to do the manual dexterity work instead of, you know, fighting the monster without having to worry about his arm getting bitten because it's made of metal? Like, it feels like he should have been there from the beginning, especially when he later on towards the end of that fight comes in and just boom sends the monster flying with one hit. I recognize that they needed to draw out that fight within the context of the story, but it was still one of those things where it's just like, why did you choose to split things up this way? And that just felt like, okay, that was a little bit of a writing contrivance. That was a little bit of the characters not acting in the most logical of fashions, um, which is unfortunate because we are working on developing Amelia as a leader here, and that would have been a chance to see her skill with strategy a little bit more. You know, apart from her having the most emotional stability here, um, this is also really putting her in the rare position of having to be the leader, um, because the leader is missing, which is another thing that we actually got to get some experience for with her during Dino Fury. In the season 2 premiere of Power Rangers Dino Fury Numero Uno, she was taking over from Jane, covering Buzz Blast. So we've seen her have to manage a team before, and that was something that she wasn't great at first, but she clearly had the competence to be put in that position, and she learned across the course of the season how better to manage that responsibility, including in Ultimate Mystery, when she, learned that, okay, just because you might be capable of breaking the rules sometimes doesn't mean you need to um, put your employees in unnecessary risk. Your followers, your coworkers, colleagues, however you want to phrase her relationship with Stan and Annie. These were all things that probably could have been. Um, these were all things that really helped to develop her to the point where you can be like, okay, yeah, no, I can see Amelia being the leader of the Rangers now. It felt a little odd when it was first announced, um, but when you take into account that we've lost the previous Red Ranger, we've seen that Ion has attempted leadership before and then realized it was not for him, and now we have removed the strongest strategist of the team in terms of Ollie. The 3 remaining Rangers at that point would be Amelia, Izzy, and Javi. Izzy's too inexperienced, and so between Amelia and Javi, Amelia has consistently displayed, I think, a stronger sense of leadership. throughout the entire series. Um, and she also has seniority as a ranger. She has demonstrated seniority in Blood's Blast. Um, you know, this episode really was all about positioning the Rangers to be ready for their new powers and their new roles. Um, so Javi now coming to terms with his new arm, that was a very jarring and unfamiliar in the previous episode. Um, you know, and Amelia taking on that new responsibility as Red Ranger, which um, I thought was a kind of great moment where she initially just thought it was a very dark shade of pink, which I thought was very cute, and gave her a good reason for a helmetless scene. Because like, oh, maybe it's the visor, and then she can get to see, no, wait, no, I'm actually red, and you get this nice helmetless shot of her as the Red Ranger. Um, I do think that um, despite it being well led up to from a character standpoint, the new powers introduction um, did feel slightly anticlimactic, solely due to the fact that we don't get to see them in action in this episode. We get to see them introduced with the Rangers all morphing, but it's a test morph and we don't get to see them in action in this episode. And so that was a little bit of a letdown at the end when it's like, okay, let's call the Zords, and then they cut. And that was actually a little bit of an awkward cut. There was like a little bit of a delay after her line before they actually cut to credits. And so that ending, despite clearly being what they were kind of building them to be ready for, did feel a little weak. But it does, still set things up for what we're going to do next. We're going to see them go into action in the next episode. We get to see them go after Zato and go to find Zato on the planet Levena. And it was also great to see Mick again, that he has so quickly found Zato. And I will admit, it is really, it continues to be funny to me that we have had 3 episodes in a row now of Russell Curry having top billing in the credits as Zato, and his face has yet to actually appear in the series outside of the flashback and credits. Like, we have yet to see Zato without a helmet, or even at all in these last 2 episodes. But he still has top billing right now, and that's very funny to me. Unfortunately, it does end up reinforcing the validity of the argument that Zato appeared to be getting shoved aside a bit in favor of Amelia's new role as Red. If this was a full season, I wouldn't describe it so much as being shoved aside. However, because it is such a short season, he's already basically been missing for 3 episodes worth of the season. Yeah, he's kind of taken a back seat in terms of the bulk of the story. Regardless of how prominent he may be in the remaining episodes, this is still definitely a backseat in terms of just absence, which is a shame. I do like Zato as a character, and it is unfortunate that he's kind of has to be taken out of the equation for now, for the purposes of the other characters. I understand it makes sense in terms of what they're trying to do. It's just something that is unfortunate. That it appears to be a story necessity. Now, one other side plot in this episode is, while we don't have the Rangers directly interacting with Zed's forces in this episode due to their own side adventure, we also have Ollie having his own side story as well back on Earth, where the Squidrills and Sentinels have been taking over the Earth, where we get to see Ollie with Dr. Akana. And that was an interesting scene to me, because unlike Amelia, I was not fully convinced at the end of the previous episode that Ollie had fully gone evil. Because, it made sense to me from a story standpoint that he would want to try and at least make sure that at least one Dino Fury Ranger could still morph. Like, him choosing to go undercover as Zed's um, general and be fighting to keep his power so that he could protect his friends felt like something that would have been perfectly in character for him to do. But this episode really confirms that nope, Ollie is actually still evil. And I wasn't certain of it until he had the little reveal with his mom. Like when he went to see his mom at the beginning of that scene, I'm like, okay, so he is trying to be, the undercover mole on Zed's side right now, and he wants to find the others so that he can help them. And then he gets the message from Mick. He drops the facade. He's like being all sly and snarky, and I'm like, oh man, no, he is actually still evil. This is not just an act he's putting on. He's actively working for Zed. And I'm like, but could this be a longer play? Could this be a longer play? And sure enough, he goes and he gives the information to Zed on where to find Zato. And that's something that introduces an interesting new dynamic in terms of we now have a well-established ranger, not some new ranger, as a prominent villain. Usually when a ranger is a prominent villain, it's usually a ranger who has been first introduced as an evil ranger. But Ollie's had 2 seasons of just being part of the team, and now he's in this new role of being a major antagonist. And I have to say, I actually kind of like these performances better than his previous characterization. And I think that's actually the case with a number of the Rangers. That as far as I've been noticing their performances in this scene, I feel like the character voices are stronger, the performances are stronger. They're benefiting greatly from having spent 2 years in these roles, and the writers have figured out how better to play to their strong suits. Like Amelia dispensing wisdom from Pop Pop and reassuring Ion it feels like we're playing more to Hunter Denno's strengths as an actress than we were when she was the kind of more the newbie to this crazy alien world of being a Power Ranger. She's demonstrating this much stronger confidence and warmth that I think is really working well for her character. I always felt like Amelia was stronger in concept rather than execution up until this point. I feel like they've managed to shift the writing of the character to play to the actress's strengths. And I feel like they've done the same thing for Ollie as well, who was always just kind of an arrogant, kind of snide character as a ranger, and that always felt a little bit at odds with the role that he had in the series as a hero. But playing it as a villain and getting a chance to actually play up that arrogance and that the playfulness that goes with that, I feel like like Kai Moya is getting a chance to have more fun as an actor playing as a villain, which is really ironic considering that apparently the reason that he was written as a villain this season was in case he was not able to make the filming commitments due to scheduling, in which case they wanted to have a chance, I guess, to have him in a consistently morphed role. But we get to see his face here, and he's doing great. And his manipulation of his mother and her reaction of just kind of quiet terror. I just thought that scene just played really, really well. And although I will admit that it wasn't really necessary from an in-universe story standpoint for him to reveal his evilness to his mom at that time. That was really a scene for us, so that we could really see, no, this is who Ali is now for this portion of the story. Um, so a lot of good stuff here. Happy Friday the 13th. Um, a lot of good stuff here. Um, Playing with a lot of new dynamics. Um, we get to see Billy develop new Ranger powers, which definitely feels like that's in his wheelhouse at this point. Um, although I think the one thing that I have an issue with in terms of that development of the powers is just the fact that there does not seem to be any connection to the Cosmic Zords in terms of the Cosmic Fury Zords being at all connected to the Cosmic Fury powers, um, which is sort of a weird disconnect, and I'm not quite sure why that is. I'm actually no, I can say why. I think I can say why that is. It's because that the Zords, in terms of connecting them to their powers, was just not a priority storytelling wise, is how it appeared. Um, but I think it would have been nice if somehow those Zords could have acted as some form of um, conduit for them to be able to take on the new forms. Um, Even if it was something like the, the orb cockpits could be used as kind of an empowering globe, something or another, since they have the cosmic orbs for their morphers and they have those orb-based Zords. The lack of a connection between that just feels like a missed opportunity. But yeah, for the most part, those are my primary issues with the episode. Just the fact that the introduction of the powers feels a little bit disconnected from a lot of the other stuff going on, because it doesn't lead into any major action outside of it, or serves a major story beat outside of resolving what it is that Billy was working on when he was off camera for the bulk of this episode. Um, and that's another point where I'm like, there are little things here where it's like, okay, I would have liked to have seen that, but I understand why they did that. I would have liked to have seen this, but I understand why they did that. I would have liked to have seen Billy being the one Ranger on a team able to morph while everyone else has to be his support, because that would play so well against how his role was in Zeo, where everyone else was a Ranger except for him. And that could have been a really fun kind of callback that again feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity. But there's only so many episodes here, and they can only spend so much time on each idea, and only get to explore so many. So, speaking of limited time, let's take a look at our next episode of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury, Episode 4, Teamwork. Not to be confused with Teamwork, which is the third episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This is Teamwork as two separate words, because for whatever reason, Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury, I don't, they just love those two-word titles. Every single episode of Jungle Fury, every single episode of Jungle Fury was 4 words, but every single episode of Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury has been 2 words, I believe, which is just kind of an interesting little fun fact there. Now, let's take a look at our description for Episode 4, Teamwork. Ali races Team Cosmic Fury to find Zato, but the Zenith Rangers' location is anyone's guess. They'd better move fast, though. Lord Zed's forces loom. So this one is kind of an interesting description because, well, now they actually are Team Cosmic Fury, even though, again, the Cosmic Fury powers aren't related to the Cosmic Fury Zords. Zeto's new powers are the Zenith Ranger powers. And this episode is our, final, at long last, our return of Zeto. As everyone hurries to go find him on the new planet Levena, which again, I like that we're getting to see basically a different planet almost every episode at this point. And ironically, this is the episode where he gets dropped out of being top billing for Amelia to take place in top billing. Which, again, I feel like it makes sense as a story standpoint. It's just an unfortunate thing to happen with the character that he gets bumped down a little bit. But I feel is more reflective of his role this season. We also get the little spoiler of we see the Zenith Ranger powers in the opening credits before we actually get to see them introduced at the very end of the episode. Which is a little bit of an odd thing because they played Keep Away with all the other powers up until this point. I was kind of surprised to actually see the Zenith Ranger powers in the opening credits before they got introduced, when that didn't happen with any of the other Rangers. Especially since that opening, shot in the opening credits of the Cosmic Fury Rangers is just that core four right there. With Amelia, Ion, Izzy, and Javi. And that's a cool shot. But it's like, okay, you're emphasizing that there's four of them, but you're still giving Zeto his new powers in the opening credits here. Even though they're playing Keep Away with a few other things. Good to see you, Jenny. I hope you have a great night, and I hope that you enjoy seeing episode 98 tomorrow. And thank you too, Jeremy. You have a great night. You said David has both these episodes on his appearance list. What, David Yost? This is the first episode so far that I believe doesn't feature. No. Billy's in the end of this episode. I'm like, is Billy not in this episode? No, Billy's in this episode. But we get to know this interesting new planet of Levena, which plays very much into the whole Avatar Pandora, everything is connected idea with the network of trees, which again is a fun concept, and it plays well into the into that space exploration motif that they appear to be going for. This one doesn't have quite the same Power Rangers in Space style vibes as the previous episode, even though this is a search and rescue mission on an alien planet, which is even more in the vein of what Power Rangers in Space like to do. But yeah, just slightly different vibes. And we have the race to find Zeto, and to save Mick and find Zeto. As Ollie really sells into form as being arguably the lead antagonist to a degree. I know that Zed is ostensibly the main villain, but Ollie really appears to be the primary antagonist at this point. He's the one who's taking all the action. He's the one who's leading in battle. And he gets his own shiny new suit to reflect that, which was definitely a nice, pleasant surprise. I did not expect Ollie to be getting a new set of powers while he's evil, especially since the title cards show him in a Cosmic Fury suit. I would have expected that would have been his new set of powers instead of him getting these new evil powers from Scrozzle. As fun as they are, and I actually do rather like the evil Ollie design overall. Just adding those spikes and dark colors, I think, works quite well. And speaking of suit designs, I will, sort of address the elephant in the room. Yes, Pure Nerdy, 98 I'm finishing it tonight, but it won't be able to go up until tomorrow. I wanted to get it up today. I will be doing a post to my social media. It will be tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, so that way it's not coming up right in the middle of the night. So that way everybody can get a good night's sleep to prep for it. Um, I hate delaying it any further, even if it's less than a day. Um, but limitations. My computer is 15 years old. I I gotta play into that. I gotta work with what I got. Um, but yes, Ollie as the main villain right now is very odd, and it actually um, reflects to a degree one of the odd things about the villain dynamics in Power Rangers Beast Morphers. In Power Rangers Beast Morphers, the main villain was ostensibly Evox, but all the legwork was done by Scrozzle, Blaze, and Roxy. So his primary, he was the main villain, ostensibly, but all of his monsters and all of his foot soldiers and all of his technology came from Scrozzle, who was just somebody who he happened to meet after being freed. And we have a similar thing going on here with Zed and Basilia. Zed is ostensibly the lead villain of this season, but all his armies and all his weapons, everything is coming from Basilia, and her forces are really leading the charge overall. His contribution really seems to amount to, let's go after that plant next, and now you go do your thing. Or, we're going to go after that plant next, and you all go do your thing. Rather than him actively taking a role in strategy. And then from a strategic standpoint, Evox didn't really come up with plans so much as he made Blaze and Roxy come up with their own plans and compete over who had the better plan. But it was, characters who should have been part of the Ranger team who then got corrupted into evil versions of those Ranger powers. And that's what we're seeing happen with Ollie as well. He was somebody who actually was part of the Ranger team. But now he has become the primary strategist who is coming up with the evil plans and taking lead in the film, lead in the field, and I'm very tired. Sorry, my brain is just like clicking away right now, just trying to still be functional at this point. I've had so little sleep. But yes, he's got those corrupted Ranger powers as well, and it's just it's something that I had some issue with in Beast Morphers, and I have the same issue with here, in that it feels like it does undermine your lead villain to a degree, when your lead villain isn't really displaying much in terms of agency and engagement with the primary action of the series. Basilia was already planning an intergalactic war, so Zed's contribution really amounts to, okay, we're going to go to that planet now. No strategy regarding that planet, just that planet annoys me. Can we do that one now? Okay, I'm in charge for PR reasons. Okay. So that's something where I get a little frustrated with the villain dynamics. And I wouldn't be too frustrated if there was a stronger dynamic amongst the villains. That was something that I am going to keep comparing Cosmic Fury to Power Rangers in Space, because there's clearly a lot to draw parallels from there. The villain dynamics in Power Rangers in Space are some of the best villain dynamics the show has ever done. And at least so far at this stage in Cosmic Fury, obviously we're still early, even Power Rangers in Space wasn't super strong from the outset, but we're not seeing particularly strong dynamics between the villains right now. They've got some wacky characters in there, which are fun, but the villains aren't really adding much in terms of menace or displaying much in terms um, of cleverness or strategic strength or anything like that. They're just kind of almost in the background to a degree, while Ollie's the one taking the lead and trying to make plot happen. Um, you look at the monsters that get brought along with Ollie, and they're just a dance troupe, which is fun and goofy, but again, it undermines to a degree the threat of these villains that are ostensibly conquering the universe. It's like, okay, is it just that you have squidrels, or squidrels just that's the reason that you're able to conquer the universe? Because Zed's not contributing anything really at this stage. Um, he's outside of, again, occasionally expressing his wishes. Um, and it's fun seeing Ollie as such a prominent villain, but it is a little uncomfortable to have really 2 episodes in a row where Zed and Bejelia are really taking a back seat to a degree. Whether it was to the Scuttleworm in episode 3 or to Ollie here in episode 4. Um, and I know that there's still 6 more episodes to go. There's a lot of opportunities for villains to show their true colors. But at this stage, in terms of enjoying these episodes, it is a little unfortunate there that these new characters don't feel like they are really really claiming the spotlight much at this time, and that Zed, who is the big draw ostensibly as a character, doesn't seem to be playing a huge role in the villainy. Outside of his usual, complaining to his minions. The scene with Inkworth, giving him the N-shaped ice cubes instead of the Z-shaped ice cubes is kind of silly, and I do enjoy the kind of C-3PO voice that they have for Squidward. I do often enjoy goofy characters like that. The main issue is just that every monster character appears to be a goofy character right now. We don't really have any of the new villains providing much in terms of menace or intimidation. Especially when you have wacky things like dance troupes. And this is another one where it is a bit jarring how they choose to use the Q-Ranger monsters. Because one of the most prominent suits that we see in this episode is the suit that that originally was Scorpio in Q-Ranger, who was a major villain for a number of episodes. Not for the whole series or anything, but for a number of episodes. And I always thought that he had a really cool look to him. So him, along with a bunch of others, basically just becoming, almost cannon fodder for the Rangers just to show off their new weapons, is a little disappointing because I always really liked that outfit. We also have our first use of a Zhuoger monster suit as well, because what is it, Jadana? I'm just double checking the names here. Can't even remember if I'm pronouncing it right now because my brain is just drifting away. She was actually one of the main Zhuoger villains, and so seeing her here is an interesting little twist. But they really do seem to be downplaying the contributions that these villainous characters could make to the story. Again, I know you want to keep that focus narrow and tight when you only have so many episodes, but it's the main thing I feel like Cosmic Fury is missing at this stage on an episode by episode basis is a strong sense of villain dynamics, their motivations, their relationships with each other and the heroes, and their capacity for complex strategy or intimidation. These are all things that I feel like we're not getting much of right now, even though there's obviously plenty of room for us to see more of that later. So let's see. Oh, I see I have another question. What do I think of happened to Gosei and Tensu after the end of Megaforce? Well, I've revealed in episode 97 that I have my own thoughts on the nature of Gosei, and within the context of that, I would say that Gosei basically returned to a state of dormancy, as did Tensu, following Megaforce. That would be my opinion on that. And Jesse, glad that you're able to make it. Glad you're enjoying Cosmic Fury. MJ's doing well. Our child RJ is doing well. We are almost 3 years in now. We have, I think, yet to actually reveal at any point if RJ is a boy or a girl, and we intend to keep it that way until they're old enough to make such decisions about what personal details they want to be having on the internet. But yeah, we're doing okay. Unfortunately, MJ did have a bit of a sternum injury the other week. Recovering, but it is one of the reasons I had to pick up things a little bit more around the house, because they were just a little bruised up, and unfortunately weren't able to lift and carry and move things around. So I had to take on a few more things these last 2 weeks than I had originally intended to when I put together the episode 98 trailer. So that's one of the other things that kind of delays things a little bit. Do I think that James from Dino Charge is a terrible father? He's not great. He's really not great. He just kind of disappeared, and there was never really an indication that he was doing anything to make him no longer be disappeared. And then the moment that he gets a chance to not be disappeared, he disappears again. So that's not great. But yeah, MJ had a small car accident. They're okay, just difficult to move stuff around, including a toddler. So I've had a little bit less time for editing than I originally projected, and that's just, life gets in the way. That's one of the reasons that I'm only just now wrapping things up on 98 rather than having finished it by now. Yeah, James Navarro is shirking hardcore. But anyway, back to this Cosmic Fury episode. The big showcase of this episode is, of course, our first time seeing these Cosmic Fury suits in action. And that's been the big point of contention, I think, for this season during all the time leading up to it. I know that there was a lot of contention regarding the designs of the suits. And there was the pushback from Simon and the production team that they look a lot better in action than they do in still shots. Due to different lighting and how they flow in the scenes. And while I will say I think they look fine for the most part, I don't feel like it really makes that much of a difference in terms of my opinions regarding the suits. I still feel, as most fans do, that the armored chest pieces do look a bit awkward, and part of that is due to the plain color, the lack of a breakup of color. The texture of the material, the carving of the musculature, all of those are just a little off-putting, combined with the fact that it kind of lifts up the shoulders in such a way that the suits have very much an almost football padding kind of feel to them, with the large shoulders brought up to the necks, which is something that also you can also kind of see in the morph sequence as well, when they do the whoosh and the CG helmets pop onto their heads. Um, it really feels like there's a lacking of a neck during the morph sequence, which is just a little off-putting. The general design of these new suits, I think, is fine. It really comes down to more so execution and proportion and things like that. The proportion on the shoulders feels a little bit off. The execution of the chest armor feels a bit off. Things like that just feel a little bit off. Outside of that, they look fine in action. They look, I wouldn't say they look any better than a standard Ranger suit. But they don't look, I think, appreciably worse than the standard Ranger suit in action. And the action itself with the new weapons is quite solid. The new weapons, I think, are all very nicely designed. They've got some nice ornamentation on them. They look fun. They're customized to each individual Ranger, and these are all good things. And I will say that I feel like the action choreography of the big ground fight between them and Ollie's new form and the 4 new monsters does harken back to like Disney era style choreography, which I feel like we've been growing away from for quite some time. But there's a number of scenes of shots in there that feel very Disney-esque. Things like when when Ollie and Snoutia like knock Amelia back, and she flips through the air, and then she skids on the ground when she lands. That wire work feels very Koichi Sakamoto style. Little things like that. Her bringing down the hammer and then the string of explosions feels very much in that Koichi Sakamoto kind of feel, actually reminding me of Cole's finisher with his crystal dagger in Forever Red. Yeah, this is our first time getting really good, strong original weapons in a little while, I think. Prior to this, I'm trying to think the last time we actually got genuine original weapons, and I think it's and that would have been in Dino Charge, where they kind of stacked to make the Dino Spike, and those weapons I always thought were not particularly dynamic as opposed to what we see here with the new Cosmic Fury weapons. And addressing a few more questions, was this season originally going to be 20 episodes? And got shortened due to Once and Always being made. Okay, so it did get shortened, but to my understanding, Once and Always had nothing to do with it being shortened. That was just a separate thing that they also pitched. The shortening appeared to come from Hasbro, and the rationale behind that has not been revealed to my knowledge, although my interpretation of it is because they are in the process of preparing for a reboot, they didn't want to direct too many funds to a season where they're looking for the show to become dormant afterwards. They clearly budgeted the episodes that were being made, but I guess they just wanted to budget for fewer episodes, maybe keep a little bit more in their back pocket for whatever might be coming down the line. Or at least that's my interpretation. Who was a worse / more useless father? James from Dino Charge or Dane from Ninja Steel? I'm gonna go with James was a worse father. Dane was less useful. Because Dane was only a ranger for one episode, whereas at least James got a few episodes and was able to help a little bit with his geology skills, working alongside Prince Philip. Whereas Dane, I think that he was a stronger father and that he did seem to be a good father and trained his sons well. He was just out of commission because he was trapped in the Nexus prison for 10 years or however long it was. I will admit I felt like he was heavily underutilized in the second season, but it was nowhere near on par with how James Navarro just disappeared from his entire family. Do I like the morphing sequence? I feel like the Cosmic Fury morph sequence is an appropriate reimagining of the Dino Fury morphing sequence, which I thought was an excellent morph sequence, very dynamic. This one doesn't quite raise up, I think, to the same level. I think part of that comes down to, again, the proportions on those chest pieces, just kind of throwing things off, and that little swipe with the CG helmets. Looking a little unnatural, especially with the shoulders giving the impression of them not having a neck, which is a bit odd. So let's see here. This episode also introduced, it reintroduced Zato, and gave us the idea that there is something not quite right about how he was brought back. We don't know the details of that yet, but there's that implication that there's something not quite right, and I like how they set that up here. Even if it's not particularly subtle, because the tree actively uses the phrase, the little time you have left, or what time you have left. I forget the exact words right now because my brain is falling out of my head. But I do think that it was still quite silly that the tree spoke just in that last moment. In every other case, the trees were communicating purely telepathically through Amelia and Ion, and then here the tree just decides that it can speak, which I felt was a little bit of a silly moment here. We do also get the reveal of his Zenith Ranger form, which again doesn't get too much by way of fanfare because it's just a morph in the base, and our explanation for the term Zenith is just that it's something that came from the Morphin Masters, but we don't get any further elaboration beyond that. So, this episode is definitely one that I think sort of solidifies the new status quo of the series to whatever degree you could say that the series has one. It reaffirms, the primary four Rangers with their powers. It gives us our fifth member of the team with Zato as the Zenith Ranger. We're now settling into the idea that there's some mission to be gone on that takes them to one planet or another, but Eridus is still their home base for the time being. So this almost feels like, okay, we're starting to get into a groove here, one that may continue over the next few episodes. How is there a city on the planet? I would imagine that there is some level of diversity of life. Even if it's something like plant people. I don't know. We never see who inhabits the city, but I don't think that it's too outside the realm of possibility that there could be more than one form of sentient life on this planet. Even if the other form of sentient life may be alien settlers. They may have just decided to colonize this one area of the planet with their city, which I will admit could make for an interesting story, dealing with, the rights of indigenous peoples and things like that, even in this case, those people would be a giant worldwide sentient forest, which I feel like I've gotten off from wherever I was. But still, an interesting little thing they could have that could have been played with if we were looking to explore these plants a little bit more outside of simply them having a clear purpose for rangers are stuck here, so they need to do that. The rangers need this, so they need to go there. But we're yet to get anything with regards to the cultural landscape of any of these planets. And oh, there was a bird that flew behind Zato and Ion in one scene. That's pretty funny. So overall, with teamwork, I'm not seeing as much of the strong character work as I saw in Off Grid, but it does settle us into some of these new dynamics. The Rangers having their new powers, Ollie coming into his own as a villain, deciding to reject what he had learned as a Ranger, as they discuss that towards the end of the episode. Zed forming his new base on Eltar, which was a cool thing because we finally get to see Eltar and Zed setting up his base there and actually conquering Eltar for his own this time around. Things like that are always quite cool. And we get the development of Ollie and Zed's sort of mentor-mentee relationship, where Zed appears to be taking Ollie under his wing to a degree, which is very unlike Zed. We've never seen him demonstrate that particular level of interest in others. So it can be interesting to see how that continues to play out, as we'll see as we get into those later episodes. But as for now, I am currently struggling for consciousness because I've had so many late nights working on 98. So I think that this might be a good spot to start wrapping things up for tonight. I would like, basically for teamwork, I would just kind of like to see a little bit more threat from the monsters instead of taking one of your most threatening villains from the Sentai source material and turning him into a backup dancer dude. But that's just me. That's just speaking as a fan of what I saw in Kyuranger. So I will thank you all for joining me for this 11th anniversary live stream. I'm sorry that I can't make more of a spectacle out of it right now. I really hope that we're able to knock things out of the park with 98 for tomorrow. But thank you all for joining me, and thank you all for their well wishes, and for those congratulations on reaching 11 years. Even though I never actually intended to be doing this for 11 years, I intended for this to be done after 3.5, or not even really. 3 years was my original goal, to be done by the time I was 30, and that went out the window about 8 years ago. So, all that being said, let's keep on rolling. Tomorrow, make sure to tune in for the beginning of the end for Database Rangers Power Reviews, and we will continue next week through Cosmic Fury as we work through to the beginning of as we finish up the beginning of the end there. We're going to be reaching the halfway point of Cosmic Fury, and Cosmic Fury is looking more and more like it may be an ending for Power Rangers. So we'll be looking at that next week, and let's just not forget before we go our remaining 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say it with me, chat. Love is love. Number 2, say it with me, chat. Trans rights are human rights. And number 3, say it with me, chat. Robot! robots are cool. I don't think we got too much by way of robots in this episode. Besides Sentinels. And Javi's arm. And, half of Solon's body. But full-on robots, not too much right now. This was a much more organic episode, I guess you could say. Alright, so thank you all again. And until next time, farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.